What is this? A potato. What's this? Another potato. So I have two potatoes in my right hand here. Now why am I making a video about potatoes? It's not about potatoes. We're going to use these two as a parable. And the parable begins as follows. I'm not going to tell the name of the country where this parable takes place. You may guess it yourself. Around, let's say, let me take a good year. Around the late 1700s, let's say 1794, there were 502 potato farmers in a country in South America. And these 502 potato farmers, they had to hand in 10% of their harvest as tribute to the king. Now, they lived far away from the king. That's why they had a royal governor that ran their country on behalf of the king. Now, overall, the people in the country were happy that they had a king, because the king, through the royal governor, had a whole army over there to protect them against enemy tribes that lived in the south. And their country was at a very big ocean, but still there were pirates coming to their shores. Despite that, they didn't have many peers. So now those 502 potato farmers, they prepared their tribute. The tribute would be handed over to the authorities, who would put them on, who loaded on ships, and the ships would sail to the king's servants who would receive the tribute. So one day, the administrator, on behalf of the royal governor, had to come to collect the tribute to the king. He arrived in a small town, and that small town had around 20 potato farmers. It weren't only potato farmers that had to give tribute, yet farmers that produced oranges, others had vineyards. They all had to give 10% of their harvest as tribute to the king. That was just the way it was in that kingdom. So the administrators arrive at the small town. So the one that has the lead of the team says to the farmers, you have to hand in your tribute. How many did you produce? One potato farmer came and he said, sir, I received 1,000 real subsidies from the king. Well, but unfortunately, I only produced 200 real in worth of potatoes. So this is all I got. Well, not really this, but he had only a few bags. So his sons handed the bags over to the minister, who put it on chariots. Then another farmer came and said, sir, I received 2,000 real subsidies from the king. And my land produced a lot, but it's too much for you to carry. I've around 35 bags filled with potatoes. They're big and they're fresh. Then the minister said, okay, don't worry about it. We register it and we'll have other servants that will come and pick them up. Then there was a third guy that came, and he said, I received 5,000 real subsidies from the king, but I didn't want to spend the king's money, so I put the money aside. I did produce as a farmer, but that was more for myself. Here's one tiny bag with potatoes because I couldn't produce it much. When administrator witnessed this, he noted and said, okay, fine, fine. He took the bag. 10 days later, that guy was arrested. He was dragged before court. And at the court, the royal governor himself, who was the direct representative of the king, he acted as the supreme judge. And he asked that farmer, Senor Reales, I'm just make up a name now, Senor Reales, so Miss Reales, according to our administration, you received 5,000 real subsidies from the king for your land. Mr. Reales, his first name is Diego. Diego said, yes, sir, I did. Then the royal governor asked, is it true that you didn't use any of the money that the king assigned to you? Diego said, yes, sir. Okay, but is it true, Diego, that you did farm nevertheless? Diego said, yes. And is it true that you produced only a little when you did it by your own strength? Diego said, yes, sir. Then the royal governor showed him the bag. Actually, some of the servants in the court brought the bag to the front as evidence. And then the royal governor asked Diego, is this the bag you handed to that minister who came to collect the tribute? Diego said, yes, sir. And then the royal governor said, don't you know, Diego, that it is a capital offense to abuse the king's generosity? You received 5,000 real. Others around you only received 1,000 real, some received 200 real, 2,000 real, others only received 500 real. You received 5,000 real. You were free to use that money on your land, and you have much land. That's why you receive so much money, because your land, the size of your land is enormous. Yet you insulted the king, that same man who keeps you safe in this community, by sending his troops across the ocean to keep this country safe from the tribes in the south that are raiding you guys from time to time. The king didn't even demand you to make profit for him, because the king lives in his big palace over there in the far north. But you receive a whole fortune and you just throw it away like that? Everyone in the court, there was also lawyers and also the public that was allowed to attend the case. They were all embarrassed. They were all thinking, what the heck is this? And then Diego said, sir, I did not want to be accused by the king for wasting his resources. So I didn't want anything to do with the money he handed over to me. I didn't consider it my business. So I treated it fairly by leaving it intact. And then the royal governor told him, you know what, Diego? I'm glad you opened your mouth. I'm glad with your so-called honesty. You just show to everyone over here that you have contempt for the king, that you disgrace him and the people by not being responsible. You are a farmer, and farmers produce for the community. You're one of the, I'm saying this, you are one of the biggest farmers here because you have a lot of land. And the land you have is quite fertile because it's near ponds and near small rivers. The king knew this. That's why the king trusted you with 5,000 real, because he knew that you had the potential to bring forth a lot. He knew that you didn't have to do much, but you didn't just sow a little bit here and there, and the produce would happen by itself. What you would have produced eventually would have been purchased from you by the king's servants, and would have been distributed amongst the people to feed the poor and also to feed the army that's protecting you. But you refuse to comply with justice. You refuse to contribute to the community. But at the same time, you demand the community to leave you alone. You demand the community to respect your expectations. Come on, Diego. That's not how we do this in this kingdom. That's not how the kingdom works. And then, when the royal governor saw that there was no repentance from Diego's part, he called the guards and said, "Guards, take him away. He'll be executed within 2 months." And when Diego heard this, he was thinking, "What? Me executed?" The royal governor said, "This is a capital crime against the king. You'll be shipped all the way to the king's capital. You won't have to stand trial over there, you have to trial over here, but you'll be executed in the king's presence." To show everyone in all the realms of the king that such disgusting behavior is not accepted. Now, this may be a harsh story, but just think about it. This Diego was a favored man. The only reason he had such a large farm that was fertile was because he received protection by the navy and the troops of the king. Because those tribes in the south that raided throughout the country, if they could have roamed throughout the country freely, nobody would be able to farm nor have a living. And the king not only expected them to follow the regulations of the kingdom, he even financed his own rule. So the king didn't even demand taxes from them, because the taxes he demanded were the results of his own investment. So the king invested, and the only thing the farmers had to do was to receive the investment, use investment, and what would come forth from investment, a small portion would go to the king as evidence that the man complied with the king's will. But this guy, he had contempt for the king. He just wanted to be left alone. But he did expect the community to comply with his rejection. And the royal governor made plain, not going to happen. Now, why am I using this parable? Why did I make it so long? Because there are many people like this Diego. That's their disgusting attitude towards the Most High. They want to be left alone. They want to will whatever they will. But at the same time, they demand the human community and the Most High himself to comply with their rejection. So they want a will without consequences. So everyone else has obligations except them. They always have their reasons, but others cannot have a good reason. When they do something, it's always right. When others do something, you need to watch out that they're not upset. This narcissistic attitude in the world, temporarily, you are rewarded for it. But the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is not going to look on it with favor. He won't. And of course, the parable give unto you, the subsidies are symbolic to the mercies and grace that the Most High bestows on the human population. Now, some received 1,000 real, others received 2,000 real, others only 100 real, others some 5,000 real. Those real see it as all the options and opportunities they receive to walk by faith, to walk in real life and real abundance. The wicked refuse all of them. And every time they refuse them, they accuse themselves, because their rejection will haunt them in this lifetime, in the here and now. And if they persist in rebellion, that haunting will destroy them. And when they are resurrected at the final judgment, when Christ is there, it's going to be an embarrassment caused by themselves on themselves, because there will not be a world anymore to validate their narcissism. Their disgrace will be displayed for what it really is. And the monsters they've become, the reprobates they've become, they'll fight to defend their disgrace. But the Most High will not take it. They'll be deported to the lake of fire. Now, why this parable? Because just like those potato farmers, we all receive subsidies from the real King, Christ. And his will is that we receive the subsidies and operate in them. Anything less or else is an insult to the King himself. Now, if your attitude is that you receive the subsidies and you operate in them, that's the King's will. Whether the produce is a lot or little, it doesn't matter. The King gave subsidies, so whether you produce a lot or little, you operate in subsidies. But if you don't walk in subsidies, it's a form of pride, thinking you don't need the King. You can do it all by yourself. You don't want any cooperation from others. You see the attitude? Now, that's why the Most High allows wicked people to have material abundance temporarily for a few years. That is to show their disgraceful attitude. And when they expose themselves, they're given the evidence why they need to be destroyed. So never be upset when wicked people for a few years enjoy material abundance. Why? Because that all will haunt them forever. You will walk by faith. Be the faithful and joyful potato farmers that receive the subsidies, enjoy, and operate in them without fear. Because the King never came with a stick and told you, oh, you better make sure I get profit out of this or else. No. The wicked are like that. That's why they can't stand serving a benevolent Lord. Well, that's it for now. And do you know which country I'm talking about? Let me know in the comment section. Be at peace.